Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. Welcome in. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss along with Paulie Howard, and we are live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Very busy 3-hour action-packed program today. Great guests, including Jonathan Von Tobel on the NBA Finals coming up in about 30 minutes. We'll talk some Survivor Sweat, NFL contests out here in Las Vegas with James Sullivan coming up in about an hour. The creator of Survivor Sweat, Lou Finocchiaro, very strong. What did you tell me before the show? UFC coming up in 90 minutes with Lou.
He's got to bet the farm pick.
And he never says that.
I've never heard that in 6 years.
And Jeff Sherman on the program as well. More on the NBA Finals with him. Paulie will do a recap of the Stanley Cup Final. Game 2 numbers, Major League Baseball. Horrible beat earlier today. We'll keep you abreast of on. And games in action as of right now. The news is official. Big news, I guess, in the National Football League within the last hour or thereabouts. And that is Aaron Rodgers has signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's going to happen.
Going to happen Friday. Yep. 70 days. 70 days after he first visited the Steelers. He's going to do it, and the NFL knew what was going to happen. Steelers, Jets, week 1.
They said personal issues. The Steelers got it. They understood it. They let him work them out. And hence, I guess they're over with now with Rodgers. No more personal issues with him ever again moving forward. And he's going to be the quarterback for that team. They did open up a 2.5-point favorite the night of the NFL schedule was released at the Jets. That's their week 1 opponent. That's now 3 pretty much across the board. And after that, the schedule looks like this. They play Seattle. They have 4 games, and then they get their bye week. That, to me, is something that I've always hated. If I'm like a fan of a team or, if I'm betting a team, I'm like, oh, my God, the back end of the schedule has to be super team-friendly for them to navigate that many weeks in a row without a bye week. But it goes at the Jets, Seahawks at home, at the Patriots, who a lot of people are super high on this year, hence their win total, and then Minnesota. And that's the game over in Ireland.
Yeah, it's doable, no doubt. I'd rather have Cousins. It's great for the league. It's a big-time franchise organization that gets a name player. He had a bad season. He only played well in a couple games. He was great in his final game against the Jets when they beat Miami. But for him to play like that, and they had a ton of weapons, it was a big disappointment. He put up some numbers in a couple games. The game against Jacksonville and what Adams did, and then once they got Adams, Wilson kind of disappeared, and that friendship was over. But Pittsburgh's got weapons, great defense, and we'll see if he's an upgrade, because Cousins was out there, number 1. Also, is he an upgrade over the Fields-Wilson combo that they had, too? So, at 41 years old, I don't know. But you trust Tomlin, who was in his corner. You trust their defense and the fact that they always have a winning record. We'll see what he has left in the tank, but I've been saying for a couple weeks now I'd rather have Cousins, and that's the other thing about what happens with Cousins in Atlanta. But this musical game of chairs, you're running out of chairs here and running out of teams.
Yeah, I think their ceiling overall is 9. I mean, if they get the absolute best breaks in the world, things go their way, they can maybe win 10 games, and they're a fringe playoff team. I lean on them not making it this year, and I would probably look at them going to the under. It's never happened with Tomlin, as you all know at this point.
Brutal division, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to guess better than last year because of the Bengals will be better. Browns, you have no idea, but it's not like they were any great shakes last year anyway.
But they give the Ravens problems, and that's usually close, and they find a way to win one of those games, right? So
they get the NFC North.
Uh-huh.
That's the other division that they play this year, and that's the best division in football. So that means they get the Lions, the Packers, the Vikings, and the Bears. We talked about that week 4 in Ireland. They're not better than the Vikings. If both teams are fully healthy, the Vikings have to be favored in that game. And I know their win total is 8.5, same with the Steelers. The Vikings are a better football team overall, top to bottom with the roster than Pittsburgh. Does it mean they're going to win the game? No. Who knows how McCarthy's going to play? My guess is damn good. With that guy as the head coach as KOC, but I'm not rushing. Put it this way. When I kind of yawned. I'm like, okay, finally we got the news. I did not make a single bet on this team. I'm only going to look to fade them. I'm not betting them to make the playoffs, win the division, over their win total. Any positive bets, no thank you. You can have it.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with taking a wait-and-see approach, too. He might be cooked. He was bad last year. So maybe it's more of just manage the game and use those weapons and don't turn it over. But there was a lot of good and there was a lot of bad, but then some good for him and how he played, and a major disappointment. And they remember they were favored in all these games. Their horrible ATS
know.
record.
I know.
So still, even remember, go back to that Thursday night game. They played Houston, and they were favored, and people couldn't believe it.
All right, so we get game one of the NBA Finals tonight. More steam on Oklahoma City, Paulie. They are up at some books to a 10-point favorite as we speak. The first half number is 6. And I did some digging today because, like, why is it? Now, I get it. I went into this thinking to myself, okay, so Oklahoma City has historically good numbers on their side. So they're going to be power rated with the likes of, the 2017-28 Golden State Warriors, last year's Boston team, maybe some similar teams as well. But is it just that they're so good, or is there some anti-Indiana stuff built in here as well?
There is. I know. I can't believe we're doing this. It's the third largest game won in 35 years, which OKC's an excellent team, and they're awesome at home. But a 10-point spread now, where just most people think it's going to be over in 5. They had their issues on the road. I'm surprised. And what the series price is, and still after taking out a 64-win Cleveland team and getting past the Knicks, it's still, well, they're not that good, and OKC is, you saw the people saying the Knicks were the better team. So
I know.
Yep.
And they're still saying that the series price would not have been this high had the Knicks gone past the Pacers. Probably not, because that means they would have won and gotten past the Eastern Conference. And it's also a very public team, and it's a numbers game at that point where you're going to try to fight off a majority of people, and it's going to be Knicks money coming in because they, super happy to be here, and they're going to be betting with their hearts more than anything else. So,
yeah, and the 29-1 record is getting a lot of run, too.
It is.
What OKC did against the East. But how unexpected this is. If Indiana wins the title, number one, you're talking about huge future tickets that pay off, and also they'd be the first champion that wasn't a top 3 seed or defending champion as well. So it's rarefied air here for the Pacers, and I'm not afraid to say it. I'll give them the coaching edge. Absolutely, I'll give them the coaching edge with Carlisle. And it'll come down to the threes here and knocking them down. And we've talked about the corner threes as well. But the thing that concerns me, and I know concerns you, is torture chamber. And they have had Halliburton locked up in the last 4 meetings. He's done nothing. So if he can't get going, then it will be a short series.
So of all the lopsided series that played out in the last 25 years, the comp would be, in terms of a series price, if you go back to the year 2002, the Lakers were minus 750 to begin the series over New Jersey that year.
That's it?
Yeah. The year before that, they were minus 2,000 against the 76ers.
Yeah, they hadn't lost a game going into that than the Iverson game. Okay.
And I would say this Indiana team is better than that Sixers team because that was Iverson and like nobody else.
No help, right.
Right? The 2002 Nets team, Jason Kidd,
Todd McCullough? Was he on that team?
He was.
Oh.
He averaged 9.7 points per game.
Oh.
Keith Van Horn, Kerry Kittles, Richard Jefferson. They had 4 players averaging double figures, and they all averaged around 14 points per game. That was not a good basketball team.
No.
This Indiana team, to me, clearly a better basketball team than New Jersey. Series price, pretty similar. Like I said, Lakers were minus 750. They swept them, and that was never a series, and I think a lot of people anticipated that. But that's, again, all you're hearing is that this is going to be a 5-game series. That's that they're going to truck them. I don't know. Is this Oklahoma City team better than the Lakers in 2002 when it was Kobe and Shaq in their prime still pretty much? But that was also the Lakers, the most popular team in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And back then, Las Vegas was the only game in town for legal sports betting, and they could put up any number in the world. And we're only 3.5 hours away from LA, 45-minute flight. People would come here and pound the daylights out of it. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what they would put up.
Yeah.
So anytime that you have them, you're going to take,
Well, the other thing, too, is 2 times in the last 50 years. 2 times in the last 50 years in the finals, the winner, that's the 2 times it only happened higher than 2-to-1 odds with the series price. Yeah. So that this also would be historic and a big upset if they can do it. My comp is what Detroit did to the Lakers in 03-04. Same series price. 5-to-1 take back in that one.
That's
and
right.
That's when the odds makers made a mistake. Pistons beat them in 5 and should have swept them. In that one. So I'm giving them a shot. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but certainly everything we've been saying about OKC is true. If they're able to get this done and win 84 games, you're talking about the second most in history. And that point differential and this awesome defense, and you can also bring that up too. I mean, if the Pacers turn the ball over, good night.
You give them a shot tonight?
I do. I think it's too many points. Absolutely.
Let me give you
and
this.
I like this us against the world stuff, too. They're well aware of this. They also, I was told, use this as motivation about, hey, look at this. The Knicks are favored, and everyone's picking the
Good.
Knicks to beat us, too.
Good. I wish more coaches and more teams would do
Yeah,
that.
and they also did it with Cleveland. They couldn't believe that Cleveland was a $5 favorite.
I'll give you this. Dan Karpuk, VSiN.com, he's got a handful of props that he likes, and in his analysis and his breakdown of the game tonight, he wrote that if history suggests anything, it could be a one-sided affair, at least in Game 1. Over the last 20 years, dogs in the opener of the finals are 2-18 straight up and 3-17 ATS. That's 0-12 straight up and 1-11 ATS when catching 5 or more points. And like I said, this is now touching 10 at some books. They're favored by more than that many in the first half tonight. Like I said, it moved to 5.5, 6 now. And I have great numbers on that, including when a team is on like 7+ days of rest, which Oklahoma City is when they're at home in Game 1. I will share those with you coming up in about 5 minutes.
Yep. Want to bet smarter this football season? Become a VSiN Pro subscriber today. Get a full year, just $1.99, and free pre-order of the NFL Sharp Betting Playbook by Applebaum. No-nonsense guide to reading the market, spotting sharp action, and making smarter bets. Sign up now. Get the morning email from Bill 80, every best bet, every host, every guest. The betting splits from DK and Circa, the dog videos, and our NFL betting guide, which drops July 1st. Limited time offer. Get it now, vsin.com/subscribe. Code BOOK. Code BOOK to sign up.
The 2017 Warriors were minus 1075 over Cleveland. They won 4-1. 2018, that Warriors team might have been better. They were minus $3. They swept them.
That's all that was?
That's all they were in that series.
Wow.
I can't believe that looking back. So I will give you those numbers. Wait until you hear this. A team off a long layoff. What happens in the first half? Details next on VSiN.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Game 1 tonight, NBA Finals. Thunder, massive favorites, touching 10 at some books over the Indiana Pacers. And VSiN host Jonathan Von Tobel joins the program now, loves the NBA, loves betting this sport, does a great job with Stormy Bonatoni on Money Moves, weekdays at noon right here on VSiN, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. JBT, thanks for the time. I read your brilliant write-up on the series, and my takeaway was this. You absolutely think the Pacers stink out loud, huh?
Yes, they're frauds. They don't belong here. They absolutely should not have won the Eastern Conference. Now, look, I mean, I think my love for the Oklahoma City Thunder shines through a little bit more in my written work than it does my hate for the Indiana Pacers that some have claimed that I have. But, I mean, how can you not be attracted to this Thunder team? They're incredible. Every single thing that you look at with them is great. So I actually I told Stormy this today. I hope I'm kind of wrong because I do think that this is a series in which they can kind of ragdoll them a bit and end this pretty quickly. But part of me does hope I'm wrong that we get a really fun and good and competitive series for the most part. I don't need the Thunder to cover every game. I just need them to win 4 out of the 5. So if that's what happens, we get 5 tight ones, I'm happy with it.
Okay, so then how did you bet it then? What numbers did you find appealing enough to make a bet on?
Yeah, so I think for the series itself, the two that I came around on the most were the exact results. So essentially, it's how you think each game is going to go. So there was 2 of them, betting the Thunder to win the first 3 games, then the Pacers to win Game 4, and then the Thunder to win Game 5. And then the other version, which is Thunder to win Games 1 and 2, Pacers to win Game 3, and then Thunder to win Game 4 and Game 5. So essentially, having the exact results in 5, you're getting like 7-1 on one, you're getting nearly 9-1 on the other. I think that's probably the best way to go and attack this if you're like me and everybody else in America, which believes that this is going to be a 5-game series. You can also throw a little bit on, Pacers, the exact result, which is just 5 games at plus 230. But I think that we should, first off, give Indiana some respect here. They're a very good team. Their offense is very good. They've been a very good home team. And Oklahoma City has not been a good road team in this postseason. Mm-hmm. They're just 4-3 straight up. They haven't covered a road game so far in this postseason. They've been outscored by 6.2 points per 100 possessions in non-garbage time. So I think it would be foolish of me to just assume that they're going to come in and rip off 4 straight wins when they have looked as uneven as they have away from home. So I think asking them to maybe still one of these games, because again, they have won games on the road. They just haven't covered those ones. I think it's a fine ask. So I think 5 is a safe number if you want to just go plus 230 or play those exact results at like 7 and 8 to 1. I think those are fine things to play as well.
Yeah. And by the way, those that's the result, right, for the last 2 finals, the way they played out. Because Denver beat Miami 4-1, and also last year Boston beat Dallas 4-1 as well.
It'd be more intriguing and better, I think, if they went back to the 2-3-2 format. Don't you?
I think should do that for hockey probably too.
Yeah.
So.
Because the home team's likely to win down 3-1, and at least force that Game 6 and what would happen. Mm-hmm. How big of a factor can Chet be, and how creative did you get with Chet props?
So I think Chet can be pretty good here. There's a couple of reasons why. The first of which is, look, just their numbers with Holmgren on the floor have been way better. When he's the lone center in this postseason, they've outscored opponents by 21.7 points per 100 possessions, Paul. Their offensive rating's well over 120. And I think he gets a favorable matchup against Turner. When you look at the way that Turner defends, he's a little slow to get out on perimeter shooters. He is, I think, a little slow in terms of trying to guard guys who are going to try to blow by him, which I think Chet can do from time to time. I think it's a matchup that really serves Holmgren pretty well here. So I piggybacked our guy Zach Cohen on one of the plays. You can get him to average 20-plus points per game at 5-1 for the series. That was over at MGM. And then I took a little bit of a wild swing and took him to lead the series in points at 150-1, just to have a long shot there. But look, if this is a short series like we think it could be, if I get one blow-up game from Chet, maybe this is something where I'm right about that matchup being exploited, and he can steal that title, at least in terms of most points, from Shea over the course of this series, especially if it's a lopsided one at that. But I think asking him to average 20 or more points per game in this series against Turner, who has not been particularly great, especially when contesting guys like him, I think that is going to be a matchup that he thrives in. And I think we'll get into this too, I just don't think it's a series, Paul, where Hartenstein's going to have a very big role. Okay. And I think that Holmgren's going to eat a ton of minutes at center and solo center minutes, and I think that really helps him thrive offensively.
Okay. Then what do you think Carlisle does then? How does he attack this, and knowing that he had a quick hook on Turner in some of the games?
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting part about this, because Carlisle's been great in terms of the levers that he can pull and do everything that he can. This is really going to just be about, I think at least, limiting turnovers and limiting the opportunities for this Thunder team, because that's been the big thing that the Pacers have done well. It's also been the thing that the Thunder have done really well. Forcing turnovers, getting out and running, getting those easy buckets. If you guys remember the tail end of that Denver series, that was a series in which they had outscored Denver, I think, by over 30 points in points off turnovers in both of those last few games, or somewhere in that line. Like, they were brilliant in that regard. And I know that sounds simple in terms of adjustments and attacking, but that's got to be a very big one in terms of going after them. And I also think, like, Caitlin Cooper did a really good job of breaking this series down with Zach Lowe on his podcast. I think it's a big Siakam series. I think the way that they use Siakam quite a bit, especially with that high-low game with Turner and with Siakam, I think it's a series in which Siakam can really thrive against a somewhat smaller OKC team, and it's going to allow him to score at a high will. So, like, you have a player prop out there over 19.5 points for the series per game for Pascal Siakam, minus 115 to the over. I played that. You can lay $170 to him to have more points in the series than Tyrese Halliburton. I think Siakam is going to be a very big weapon for Indiana throughout this series, and I think that's the way that Carlisle is going to go. I think they're leaning on him offensively in a really big way.
Let's follow the money. VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, VSiN host Jonathan Von Tobel. He's on the Progressive Guest Line as we continue talking about the NBA Finals. Game 1 begins tonight. And the Thunder are a huge favorite in this game, 9.5, 10 points, depending on the book that you're shopping at. So always look around. It has not gone well for Halliburton in recent matchups against his Oklahoma City defense. They can throw a plethora of guys at him and just make life a living hell. So based on that, how are you fading him with the most assists overall in the series?
So this was initially a good read because it seems like the market really agrees with me here. But DraftKings and other spots, DraftKings had him priced, Mitch, at minus 900 to lead the series in assists at one point. That has greatly dropped now. But I just thought that they were mispricing Halliburton in that market. The assist opportunities, I believe, are not going to be here as plentiful in some of these other series. And if you look at, for example, the previous 3 opponents in this postseason for Oklahoma City, obviously the Grizzlies, Nuggets, and Timberwolves, they saw their assist-to-pass rate drop dramatically in their respective series. Denver went from 10.9%, so essentially the percentage of passes that lead to an assist, 10.9% in the regular season to just 7.4% in the conference semifinals. You saw Memphis go from 10.3% in the regular season to 7.3% in the first round. This is a team in Oklahoma City City that is able to stay home, that is going to feel comfortable, that I think is going to limit the opportunities for Tyrese Halliburton to drive and kick to open shooters, not just the kick to open shooters part, but the drives as well. Guys, how many times were we talking about that Timberwolves series where Anthony Edwards was coming off of a game in which his average shot was about 20 feet or longer because he could not get in the paint? How much did we talk about Denver in that series where they all of a sudden became a perimeter-oriented jump shooting team because Oklahoma City cut off the paint? I don't think those opportunities are really going to be there for Tyrese Halliburton. I think he is forced to revert to a little bit more of a scorer than he is assister. So I went with Shea to lead the series in assists at 5-1. I really like that one a lot. And then I put a long shot in on Jalen Williams as well to lead the series in assists at 66-1. I just thought those prices were off. The probability of them leading the series in assists was much higher than what the market was initially indicating. And we've seen some pretty severe drops over the last 12 hours. But I still think Shea in the range of 3-1 to lead the series in assists is worth playing.
Are you attacking any of the others for, one of these two teams at all, maybe starting tonight? Are you because you love Cason Wallace. I think you tweeted out recently.
Yep.
He might be the second best player on their team. I couldn't tell if that was sarcasm or not. I love the guy. He's very good. Mm-hmm. Are you looking at Caruso? Are you looking at maybe playing Mathurin? Anybody else that I might be leaving off that list?
No, so you're right. I think Cason Wallace is going to have a really big series. I think he's very much worth working again. Points, rebounds, and assists over. I've been playing him almost every single time in this postseason. I think I've texted you about it in playing him over these points, rebounds, and assists. As long as they're in that range, and you can tell me exactly what it is right now if you have it in front of you.
I think it was 12 and a half in that earlier.
13. Yeah, see, I think that's still too low. I think he's still getting priced as a fringe bench guy where over the last 4 or 5 games of the postseason, he's been getting 30 minutes a game. I think he's a regular part of the rotation. This isn't a team either in Oklahoma City that is going to force you to play big. You're going to feel comfortable playing all your small guys that you really trust. Wallace is a dude they're starting to trust more. I think he's still getting priced too low on those points, rebounds, and assists. He can do it all. He's very much worth riding there. And not to the point of following or riding these dudes, but to kind of build on what we talked about here, I don't think Isaiah Hartenstein has a place in this series. I think when you look at the numbers, when him and Holmgren are on the floor together, their offense greatly suffers. They only outscore opponents in the playoffs by 1.2 points per 100 possessions when you play your two bigs on the floor, as opposed to when Holmgren's out there and you completely annihilate every single one of your opponents. And guys, this is not a series in which you're forced to play big, right? The last 2 opponents for OKC were big teams. It was Denver, it was Minnesota. You were forced to kind of roll with your double big lineup. You don't have to do that here. Turner averages less than 5 rebounds a game, right? He's not a low post threat. You're going to be able to get away with just playing Holmgren by himself. So under on points and rebounds game to game. I was looking for some series-long props for Hartenstein. I really couldn't find any. But under points and rebounds for Isaiah Hartenstein game to game until we see a legitimate adjustment in the market, I think is very much worth following.
Strong analysis as always. You can follow JVT on X. He is at MeJVT and catch him every single day at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific right here on VSiN with Money Moves and Stormy Buonantony. Thanks, pal. Good luck tonight.
Thanks a lot, guys. See you in Omaha.
You got it.
Catch you on the Progressive guest line there. Yep, there you go. Told you. The hatred just oozing through the speakers right now for the Indiana Pacers by Jonathan Von Tobel.
Public's all over the Pacers tonight at several books. I think it's great. And also to win the series.
Win some, lose some up next. A lot of action in Game 1 Stanley Cup Final last night. Paulie recaps the betting numbers and explains how the Panthers were 31-0 over the last 3 years.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Good to have you on board. Busy hour coming up. NBA Finals Game 1 tonight. We'll touch on that. Big UFC event. Awesome main event. Lou Finocchiaro at the bottom of the hour. We begin here talking some National Football League and in particular football contests this year as James Sullivan joins the program now, creator of Survivor Sweat. He'll tell you what that is coming up in a few minutes. Good to see you again. How has the offseason been treating you?
It's a short offseason. I mean, it feels like we were just here a couple months ago with our clients, obviously at the window collecting prize money. But it's a short offseason, and we're back at it, obviously, 2 weeks into the contest here.
Yeah. What'd you make of the guarantee for Survivor here at Circa? They put out $15 million. I think you and I are exactly on the same wavelength here. We think that this thing can go – basically, there's no ceiling to this. But what do you think about the $15 million guarantee?
Yeah, I mean, I said last year I think there'll be over 20 million this year. I think that 15 million is the number I guess that they would set it at. Derek likes nice round numbers, being at 14.2 last year. I thought he'd make it 15 million. I think they're going to blow past it. I think it's going to approach 20 million.
And you said that you were adamant last year that they'd get to 20 million, and your reasons were awesome as well. So some of the reasons. Let's start with this, and the gentleman from Canada. But he's not the only one. If you can share that story with now people see this as an investment, and can I survive the carnage early and then buy 10 and then just sell them?
Yeah, so with our marketplace, there's an opportunity to sell your entry. You could sell anywhere between 1% up to 99%. And you can sell it as early as, week 1, week 2. You could buy them before the season and sell them. So with that ability to monetize your entry so early, we've seen clients that, years past, they would buy 1, maybe 2 survivor entries. They're now buying 10 survivor entries. They're, buying them with the opportunity to sell them after 1 or 2 weeks. There was a guy, I told the story last year from Canada. He didn't know the difference between, he literally didn't know how to bet, but he saw it as an opportunity. He didn't know money line, he didn't know anything. And he bought 10 entries. He made it through 2 weeks, not all of them, but enough of them made it through 2 weeks. He turned around, he sold them all, and he ended up profiting on that investment. He'll be back this year. We've got another guy, I think I just told you, sorry, he last year played 1 entry in Circa Millions. This year he already told us he's coming back and he's buying 10 entries in Survivor. So you see this, a lot of times these clients that are, once they realize they can monetize the entry, they're looking to maximize what they can do with them.
Yeah, and here's the thing too about Survivor. We're always going to get some sort of chaos. Otherwise it would be boring. It probably would never even exist, right? And then you'd have like 2,000 people splitting the pot at the end of the year. You will have multiple weeks at some point throughout the season. Maybe not like last year. Maybe last year was a little bit unique, right? Because that gentleman from Canada who came in, everything went his way immediately, right? And for the first month, it was complete bedlam. You might not get it to start the year, but at some point throughout the course of what is 20 seasons here at Circa, you're going to get absolute, bedlam to take place.
Yeah, and the one thing I tell, customers that call is early in the season, those entries sell at a premium because those that are eliminated, they don't sell at EV. They sell above EV, actually. And as the contest goes on, as it gets later in the season, when they become worth so much money, that's when they come back to where they're worth EV, and then sometimes they sell even for less than the implied equity of what the entry's worth. So early in the season, if you can make it through a couple weeks, they sell at a premium, because those that are eliminated, they want to get back in so bad.
Yes.
In fact, the gentleman last year who purchased controlling interest in the Vakajani entry purchased that entry at a premium going into week 3. And he ran the tables from week 3 to week 18 and ended up cashing for, whatever it was, $1.5 million or whatever it was.
Yeah. Incredible story. How about the gentleman who, see, you're never out of this, and you can always get a bid and you can negotiate this stuff, but the guy who only had the Bears on that Christmas week, but it worked out where the guys who had Seattle had multiple entries, but they teamed up where, hey, actually, if I can buy his entry, Chicago wins, I'm okay, I'm going to protect myself, and how that sold for 6 figures.
Yeah, so that entry, so they had 2 entries going into Christmas week, and they were so concerned, but their plan was to split those entries, do 1 on each. And he had told us, we talked to him at the prize ceremony, he then came in, he bought that 3rd entry, he bought the entry that had the Bears, which allowed him to keep 2 of his picks on Seattle. Okay,
yes.
So going into the week after that, he had 2. If he would not have had that 2nd entry, if he would have split them, he would have been eliminated that following week. He told us that story because he would have taken, I can't remember what team he ended up taking, but he would have been out the week before the finish. But buying that entry gave him that flexibility to keep 2 entries. The following week, he split those entries and then made it into the final week and then ultimately cashed.
Unreal.
Incredible.
Yeah. How often do you see that where somebody will make it? And we did last year again, but we're talking halfway through the season where somebody is riding out basically the same team. They're going like full shove, all 10 entries on one team every week.
Yeah, we saw, obviously last year, we saw it with that entry. And it's happened 2 years in a row. We had a client 2 years ago who had all 10 entries going into Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
He had the Lions against the Packers, and he was debating going into that week whether he goes 8-2 or, and last minute he pulled the trigger, all 10 on the Lions, eliminated that week.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have onions to do that.
Yeah. And he was a professional poker player. I always say everyone has a risk tolerance. What their risk tolerance is, right? His risk tolerance is significantly higher. Yeah. And he went all in, all 10, and was eliminated.
Yeah, everybody's going to be different here.
Yep. Yeah. Right? Can you talk about everything's open to negotiation in terms of how much do I want to buy, what percentage, and then who controls the pick?
Yeah, so it's all built into the platform. So when you post your entry, there's a box you check as to whether you want to give up pick control or whether you want to keep pick control. And obviously, it's determined on what percentage you're willing to sell. If you're selling more than 50%, you obviously have to give up pick control. But you could sell minority stakes, 1, 5, 10%, and keep pick control. But if you give up the pick control, you'll note it on your listing. So when someone's coming in, the site has features where it's just like eBay. You can make an offer, you can counter offer. all through the platform. Once a deal is agreed upon, both parties agree and accept, then that triggers the contract. There's clearly paperwork on the back end to formalize that transaction. But everything is built into the platform where you can negotiate on the site and ultimately come to an agreement.
And you said, sorry, Paul, you said it's between 1 and 99%. So that's the longer the season goes on, if one person is selling a single entry, there's something guaranteed to where he can never sell more than 99% of that entry, even if he splits it off like 10, 12, 15 different times?
Right. He has to keep at least 1% as the entry owner. The original owner of that entry has to keep 1%. So it's up to 1 to 99% that he could sell.
So you have the FOMO, you have business opportunity, and you have, oh my God, I got knocked out. I hate how I'm feeling, but I can come right back in.
I'm not waiting another year.
That's awesome. I can jump right back in. And who's our friend we just had on? The last 2 years he's won it. Blanking on his name.
Greg Jones.
Greg Jones.
L.A. Jones as well. And he was just on and told that story as well. So based on all this is so good. And what you're hearing right now and what the numbers are at, you're stronger than ever on 20 million, and based on the pace they're on right now, too.
Yeah, it's ahead of pace. I mean, obviously, we're only 2 weeks in, so it's a small data sample, but it's ahead of pace, definitely probably about 30% ahead of pace. So if you extrapolate that out, you're looking at 18, 19,000. We always see a huge surge those last 9 days. That's when the numbers just jump off the page. So I still am comfortable saying 20 million. Maybe it comes up a little short, but I think it's going to be pretty close to 20 million.
Yeah. And are you seeing more people trying to jump in and be proxies as a result of this?
Well, there's 4 main proxies. As you know, if you play from out of state, you have to hire a proxy here locally who submits your picks. There's more and more proxies every year. Yeah, but there's 4 main ones that handle the bulk of the entries for this contest and for the Westgate.
Okay, what are you hearing about Grandissimo? The entry that's for $100,000 to get in, as Derek, unleashed all hell last week or 2 weeks ago with us on this show. Totally took everybody by surprise. 1 entry so far. How many do we get in that bad boy?
I think that one definitely gets it will exceed the guarantee on that one too. My estimate, I know internally, I think they're around like 25 entries. I've heard upwards of 30 entries. I can speak from like our clients that we work with. We've got probably 4 that are in the queue right now that have not registered but are planning to be out here in the next 2 weeks. Our podcast hosts, Mike Buckmiller and Russell Rosenblum, they host the Survivor Sweat podcast. They'll be purchasing 2 entries, and then they'll be selling shares in the Survivor Sweat marketplace.
Really?
So you'll have a chance to buy in on some former champs that won it in 2022.
All right.
For Grandissimo. Okay.
Yeah, for the
Good job. That's breaking
Mike
news.
Palm said 39.5.
39.5?
Entries yesterday with us.
Yeah. I said 35. I've heard 25, but they exceed it for sure.
Okay. How about the new guy, Westgate? $5,000 entry survivor. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that one will probably have a couple hundred entries is my guess. I think they get just over $1 million in the prize pool for that one. Anywhere between 200 to 300 would be my guess on that one.
Okay. Yeah, I made it 300. He said he went way under.
I think it'll be.
But that's 200. Yeah,
I think in that
They'd
200 to 300 range
200.
would be. Remember, we brought in Sherman's on a little bit later on today, about an hour from right now. We brought him on like a day or two after they announced that, right? I think it was maybe the next week, and he said, if we get 200, we're going to be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I think they'd be happy with something in the 200 range for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what do you make of them, the Westgate, going back to $1,500 for the buy-in to the Super Contest?
I was surprised, to be quite honest with you. I mean, $1,000 number is just a nice number. Obviously, it differentiates themselves between the 2 contests, so it does create a point of differentiation. But I was surprised when they increased it back to $1,500.
Well, I'm a fan of the college contest, and I know with the Golden Nugget going bye-bye, we needed to have a college contest.
Absolutely, there's been big demand for that.
Yeah.
We get clients asking us all the time for college contests.
I bet.
So I think that one will be really popular.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about Survivor Sweat again.
So the marketplace is actually open right now, but for those that are looking at entry, it provides a proxy service as well. So if you're looking for a proxy, it has both the proxy and the marketplace built into the platform. So you can not only make your picks on a weekly basis, but then you can also, if you wanted to, like buy and sell on there. So it's all built into one platform.
Can't wait to talk to you later in the year when things get heating up. Good to see you again.
Thanks, guys, for having me.
If you'd like to play Circle Survivor or Circle Millions for free, Winner Circle Proxy giving away 1 free entry at each contest plus full proxy service. Enter now for your chance to win. WinnerCircleProxy.com/VSiN. WinnerCircleProxy.com/VSiN.
The documentary again that'll come out a little bit later on this year, the quest for 14.2 million. That's not going to hurt things either.
That's true.
That will only help people get the juices flowing again.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why, like I say, I see it getting close to 20 million. Once that thing comes out, you just see the excitement build, and it's the FOMO, and everyone wants in. Everyone wants a chance at the big prize pool.
I wonder what we're going to be guessing for next year if they get to like $21 million this year. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I always said I think this could be the World Series of Poker, where it just increases every year.
Yep, same here.
Could be.
Thank you again. We appreciate that. There you go, James Sullivan, Survivor Sweat up next. Game 1 of the NBA Finals. It doesn't get much worse or uglier than 3-17 ATS over a 20-year span. Find out what that angle is next here on VSiN.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
On paper, we have one hell of a main event this weekend. UFC 316 back in New Jersey. And to talk about it right now with some best bets is friend of the show and network, Lou Finicaro. Dynamite analysis up on the website as always at vsin.com, and he is on the Progressive guest line. Uncle Lou, thanks for the time as always. Appreciate you taking some time to join us here on the program. But your lead to your analysis on the website anyway started with a warning for UFC bettors based on the location of the event this weekend. What is that warning for us?
First, guys, thanks so much for having me. The mixed martial arts world loves the time. The warning shot is a simple one, and that is that when you're an old saddle like me and you've been around different states and events boxing into mixed martial arts, you learn which fight commissions, because each state has one, and that's what regulates each boxing match. And therefore, there was no time to establish new mixed martial arts commissions. So mixed martial arts lives under the umbrella of boxing, and that is it just filled full of greed, avarice, and vice. And in Jersey, Florida, and Texas, you still have very antiquated commissions that shirt tail their members. When one leaves, he gives it to his grandson or his brother-in-law or his son-in-law, however it works. But the bottom line is that everyone knows the umbilical to today's fight commissions in each state are tied to boxing. Some are better than others. Nevada's a good one. Others are good. And even in good jurisdictions, men, we get some funny decisions. Yep. In New Jersey, I'm telling you to be prepared for it. May or may not happen, but I can sure see it happen. There's one Jersey kid fighting there, and in the main event, Merab Dvalishvili, and he fights out of the Longo camp from New York. They're right across the river.
Very good. Great analysis. And how about that main event? The cash cow, O'Malley, a big dog here, but a unique way that you want to play it. Walk us through and take us through this one.
Yeah, with this fight, again, I'm an Arizona resident, so we have available to us these points. In the first fight, O'Malley lost by a total of 5 points across the decision. One judge had it by Dvalishvili by 3 points, and the other two each had it 1. So he lost by 5. In this fight, to take Sean O'Malley plus 5.5 points, you actually have to pay 135. But it's my opinion, and I wrote this up in the VSiN digital article. I think we're going to get O'Malley's best effort. He was the champ. He's been dethroned. He had a labrum fixed. He has no excuses. He's also been out of the public eye. He's not dyeing his hair. He quit smoking weed, according to him, and he's changed his lifestyle. All signs of a guy that's really focused on giving us his best product on Saturday. And in that first fight, he only lost by those points. Now, the Dvalishvili win was sound, but he was clowning around. This is a guy that jumped into a lake in the middle of winter, and it wasn't unfrozen. He hit head first, bounced up, had stitches. The guy is an unbelievable wrestler. He's an unbelievable fighter. But if there's a drastic mismatch in this fight, it's fight IQ and overall IQ. And if Merab has taken O'Malley any kind of lightly in this fight, or if he gets too predictable rushing in for one of those takedowns, I think O'Malley's going to be in a better position to line him up or at least keep the fight standing. You don't learn wrestling in a few months, and O'Malley's been trying to improve his grappling and wrestling for many months. I think he was taken by surprise in the first fight because of Merab's cardio and his strength, but he won't be surprised in this one. And I think O'Malley in that point situation is a real great opportunity.
Right, great analysis. What's inside the distance, Pay?
Inside the distance for O'Malley,
yeah.
I think you got a plus 450 or so. I don't have my notes right here, but for those in the Vegas area that are unable to take advantage of the point situation, then I think that lightning in your bottle is winning method. And for O'Malley to go inside the distance, or I should say an O'Malley TKO, that's 450. Any O'Malley inside the distance, which would include sub and DQ, that's 4.25. I would recommend the inside the distance O'Malley inside because I do believe the most likely way he beats Merab is by catching him and knocking him out.
Okay. How about Pena Harrison with the prop 4.5 over plus money and also the points here? How you want to attack this?
Yeah, well, you look at that line, Harrison minus 750, and based on who she is and the savant vice grip wrestler she is, I mean, she trains with 155-pound men in Dagestan. The gal's a killer, but she's not a finisher. Yeah, she finished Holly Holm, but this Juliana Pena, everyone seems to be overlooking her. You know, she combs her hair and she puts makeup on, and she's not an unattractive woman. But here's what she really is. She's a junkyard dog, mean as hell, and she feels totally overlooked and disrespected in this fight, and she has ability. Let's not forget she submitted Amanda Nunes. Now, I don't think she could have that kind of performance against Harrison, but I really believe that this fight goes over 4.5, and you get a handsome plus 150 if you consider that approach. For the fight to go the distance, plus 165, I like both of those angles. I do not believe Harrison will get Pena out. Pena's too proud, too tough, too versed. This is going to be a roll on the canvas for some time because I do believe Harrison will be able to get her down, but Pena's not going anywhere. I do believe this fight ends in decision. And if you were so inclined, the Pena points, again, I hate to keep bringing that up for the people in Nevada, but Pena points plus 5.5 is plus 215. I like that as well.
It's okay. Good. Some of us make a drive once in a while, and we're much bigger outside of the state of Nevada anyway, so we got that going for us. It's Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Lou Finicaro, talking UFC 316 this weekend back in New Jersey. He's on the Progressive Guest Line. What do you make of Holland? Now I'm seeing about minus 270 here against Luque.
Yeah, we wanted to get him earlier, but he's that price for a reason. The last time Luque fought out east was just 2 or 3 fights ago, and he didn't make 4 minutes. He is a warrior, and quite honestly, Luque is a fighter that needs cooperation from an opponent. And if said opponent is not nimble and will acquiesce and stand and trade with Luque, then Luque has a great shot, despite the fact that he's lost some of his chin because of the wars he's been in over his career. He's 35, 36 years old now. Kevin Holland is nimble, he's athletic, he's evasive, he's powerful, and he's well-rounded. Those are all terrible recipes to fight Luque, and I look for Kevin Holland to be a parlay piece because I do believe that he's just going to be too fast, too evasive for Luque. Luque doesn't have the feet to compete with Kevin Holland.
2 minutes left, Lou. Couple more picks. Spivak by sub 3-1.
Spivak, the polar bear, but he's not as fast as polar bears are actually fast. But Spivak is more like a glacier. That's how fast he is. But he's a submission artist, and he's fighting a kid out of the Dominican, Cortez Acosta, got power for 5 minutes, which means that if Spivak can evade the power and get this fight to the second round, I believe the fight turns in his favor. He's strong. He'll press Acosta against the fence when Acosta slows down, take it to the floor, and submit him. And I think that that's the likely way for Spivak to win this fight. And I do like him as a short favorite here. but I like him via sub at 3-1.
And the Gastelum fight to go the distance plus 105 and a slice of Mama's Pizza on De Silva plus 410?
Yeah, the young Chinese fighter, Kong, doesn't have the experience and hasn't been in with the ilk that has young Adrienne. They're calling her De Silva. She used to be Lipsky. She must have got married or something. I'm not sure. But I like the bomb a little bit. And Gastelum is another fight with feet. Pfeiffer don't have him. He's Frankenstein in there. Gastelum is not out of this fight. Rather than take Gastelum, indirectly I'll take him by taking the fight to go to decision, where I think Gastelum may or may not win a tight decision.
Very good. Dynamite analysis is always my man. You can follow Lou on X. He is at GamLou with the About Business podcast and also his weekly write-ups for this sport at vsin.com. Thanks, buddy. Good luck.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great show. I'll be watching in.
Thanks, Lou. Let's cash that 4-1 ticket. NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Finals are here. Profit X offering the best odds all playoffs long. Peer-to-peer sports exchange available in 40-plus states. You'll be able to make your picks against other groups of fans rather than against the books. Exchanges guarantee you the best odds by 10 to 20%. Download Profit X today. Code VSiN. Earn up to $200 in profit cash. Code VSiN.
One of the big guys in this series might not have much of a role, so I fired on the player who would benefit the most. I'll explain that next.